What if I told you that one of the most powerful men in the world just completely reversed his position on one of the most explosive controversies of our time, and almost nobody is asking why? Sunday night, November 16th, 2025, President Donald Trump posts on Truth Social urging House Republicans to vote yes on releasing the Epstein files, the same files he's been calling a Democrat hoax for months, the same files he personally called Republican lawmakers to convince them not to release. But here's what makes this absolutely insane. This happened exactly 48 hours after damaging emails from Jeffrey Epstein himself were released claiming Trump knew about the girls. It happened hours after his closest MAGA ally, Marjorie Taylor Greene, said their entire falling out was about these files. And it happened minutes before a House vote that was about to embarrass him with massive Republican defections. If you think this is just politics as usual, you're not paying attention. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see a pattern that changes everything. Let me paint you a picture of just how dramatic this flip really is. For months, Trump has been fighting tooth and nail against releasing these files. In July 2025, when his own supporters demanded transparency, Trump called them victims of bullshit who had been conned by the lunatic left. He literally said he didn't want their support anymore. Think about that. A politician telling his base to go away because they wanted accountability. But it gets worse. Just last week, Trump personally reached out to Republican lawmakers who signed the discharge petition to force a vote. He called Lauren Boebert. She was summoned to the White House Situation Room, the Situation Room, people, to pressure her about an Epstein vote. Let that sink in. The same room where they monitor national security threats was being used to lobby against transparency. The White House even delayed swearing in Democratic Representative Adelita Grijalva for weeks, specifically because she was going to be the 218th signature needed to force this vote. They literally shut down the government to avoid this moment. Speaker Mike Johnson sent Congress home early for August recess when the petition was gaining steam. Then there was the longest government shutdown in American history, and multiple sources say the Epstein files vote was a major factor in that timing. Trump wasn't just opposed to releasing these files, he was using every lever of presidential power to stop it. And then, Sunday night happens. House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. What? This is the same man who 3 days earlier called it a Democrat hoax and said anyone pushing for release was falling into a trap. Now he's saying we have nothing to hide and it's time to move on. But here's the question nobody in the mainstream media is asking loudly enough. What changed? What happened between Friday and Sunday that made Trump completely abandon his strategy? Wednesday, November 12th. House Democrats released emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And these weren't just any emails. In a 2011 email to Ghislaine Maxwell, yes, that Ghislaine Maxwell, currently serving 20 years for sex trafficking, Epstein wrote about Trump, quote, "I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him, and he has never once been mentioned." The dog that hasn't barked. Think about what that phrase means. Epstein is saying Trump is suspiciously quiet about something, that he could speak up, but hasn't. But wait, it gets more damning. In January 2019, just months before Epstein's death in federal custody, Epstein sent an email to author Michael Wolff. The email mentions Mar-a-Lago, Trump's resort in Florida, and then Epstein writes, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Read that again slowly. Of course he knew about the girls. This directly contradicts Trump's public narrative. For years, Trump has claimed he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago because he was being a creep to female employees. Trump has said multiple times that he had no idea what Epstein was doing, but Epstein himself in his own words, is saying Trump knew, and not just knew, but specifically asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop whatever was happening. Now, the White House has pushed back hard on this. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt claims the victim mentioned in the emails is Virginia Giuffre, who worked at Mar-a-Lago Spa when she was 16 in 2000. Giuffre later described meeting Trump as friendly and never accused him of wrongdoing. She tragically died by suicide in April 2025. But here's what makes this complicated. Epstein's email doesn't say Trump did nothing wrong. It says Trump knew about the girls. Those are very different statements. And there's more. In other emails from 2017 and 2018, Epstein called Trump fucking crazy, speculated he might have early dementia, compared him to a mob boss, and said he was evil beyond belief. In one 2018 email, Epstein wrote, "He feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief. Mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack." Why does this matter? Because it shows their relationship soured. They went from close friends to bitter enemies. And when relationships between powerful people fall apart, that's when secrets start spilling. The emails were released on Wednesday. By Sunday, Trump had completely reversed his position. Coincidence? Let's keep connecting the dots. While those emails were dropping, something unprecedented was happening inside the MAGA movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, queen of MAGA, Trump's fiercest defender, the woman who stood by him through everything, was being called a traitor by the president himself. Let me give you the timeline because this is wild. Thursday, Greene publicly questions why Trump is fighting so hard against the Epstein files release. Friday, Trump posts on Truth Social calling her Wacky Marjorie and says he'll support a primary challenger against her in 2026. He withdraws his endorsement. Saturday, Trump escalates, calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene and a disgrace to the Republican Party. Sunday morning, Greene goes on CNN's State of the Union and says something that should make everyone's ears perk up. Unfortunately, it has all come down to the Epstein files, and that is shocking. She continues, "I have no idea what's in the files, I can't even guess, but that is the question everyone is asking. Why fight this so hard?" Think about what she's saying here. Even Greene, who has spoken to multiple Epstein victims who told her Trump did nothing wrong, even she can't understand why Trump is battling this so aggressively. Sunday afternoon, Rep. Thomas Massie goes on ABC's This Week and drops a bomb. He says Trump is trying to protect a bunch of rich and powerful friends, billionaires, donors to his campaign, friends in his social circles. Massie, a Republican, then warns that Trump might be using calls for a Justice Department investigation as a big smokescreen, creating an ongoing investigation that would legally justify keeping the files sealed. And then Massie predicts that 100 or more House Republicans might vote against Trump's wishes. 100. That's almost half the Republican caucus potentially defying the president. Sunday evening, 11 p.m. Trump reverses course, posts that Republicans should vote to release the files. Sunday evening, 11:15 p.m. Trump posts again, calling Greene a traitor once more. Do you see what happened here? Trump saw the writing on the wall. His own party was about to humiliate him with a massive defection. So he did what he always does. He got ahead of the narrative and pretended it was his idea all along. But the damage was done. The rift with Greene, his most loyal soldier, revealed something crucial. This fight cost him his most valuable asset, unwavering MAGA loyalty.
Now here's where we need to talk about something Rep. Massie said that I think is the real story everyone is missing. Massie warned that investigations being launched now might be meant to delay or block real transparency. Let me explain how this works, because it's actually brilliant if you're trying to cover something up. On Friday, Trump called for the Justice Department and FBI to investigate Epstein's ties to prominent Democrats, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers. Sounds good, right? Accountability? But here's the trick. Once an investigation is ongoing, the government has legal justification to keep files sealed. They can say, we can't release these documents because it might compromise an active investigation. This is a classic Washington maneuver. You don't block transparency directly. That looks bad. Instead, you launch an investigation that gives you legal cover to withhold information indefinitely. Think about it. Trump spent months saying these files were a Democrat hoax and there was nothing to see. Then, when forced to release them, he suddenly wants to investigate Democrats connected to Epstein. Massie called it a big smokescreen, and I think he's exactly right. But here's what's even more interesting. Speaker Mike Johnson has been saying the House Oversight Committee investigation has already released far more information than the discharge petition would require. He claims they've put out over 23,000 documents from Epstein's estate. Yet Democrats and even Republicans like Greene and Massie are saying that's not enough. They want the Justice Department files, the FBI investigation materials, the communications, the evidence collected during federal probes. Why? Because the Oversight Committee is releasing civil documents from Epstein's estate, emails, correspondence, financial records. But the FBI files would contain witness statements, surveillance, investigative findings, and potentially evidence of crimes by people who were never charged. That's what this fight is really about. Not the stuff we already know. The stuff we don't know.
So let's connect all the dots now. First, Trump campaigned on transparency about Epstein, promising to release everything. Second, once in office, he completely reversed, calling demands for files a hoax. Third, he used presidential power to delay, obstruct, and pressure lawmakers against voting for release. Fourth, damaging emails from Epstein himself emerged, claiming Trump knew about the girls. Fifth, his closest MAGA allies began publicly breaking with him over this single issue. Sixth, facing a massive Republican defection that would humiliate him, Trump suddenly reversed again, now supporting release. Seventh, but simultaneously, he's calling for new investigations that could keep the most important files sealed. Here's what I think is happening. And I want to be clear, this is analysis, not proven fact. I don't think Trump is necessarily protecting himself. The victims who've spoken out have consistently said Trump didn't assault them. Virginia Giuffre described him as friendly. Maxwell told the Justice Department she never saw Trump in any inappropriate setting. So what is he protecting? Massie told us rich and powerful friends, billionaires, donors to his campaign, friends in his social circles. Think about Trump's world. He's been in elite circles for decades. New York high society, Palm Beach, Manhattan. The people Epstein hung around with weren't random. They were some of the most powerful figures in finance, politics, technology, and entertainment. If those files come out and reveal names, not just of people who committed crimes, but people who knew and stayed silent, people who looked the other way, people who enabled, that's going to detonate like a nuclear bomb in American high society. And Trump, for all his outsider rhetoric, has always been an insider in those circles. Here's the other possibility, and Greene herself hinted at this. Foreign connections. On Sunday, Greene posted images from pro-Israel lobbying groups and asked, who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump to keep files hidden? When CNN asked her to clarify, she wouldn't back down, asking, was Jeffrey Epstein working for Israel? Now, I'm not going to speculate on international intelligence connections. That's beyond the scope of this video. But what I will say is that Epstein's network was global. The files don't just contain American names, and some countries have significant leverage over American politicians. Whatever the reason, one thing is crystal clear. Something in those files is worth Trump burning bridges with his most loyal allies, risking Republican defections, and completely contradicting his own campaign promises.
The House is expected to vote on the Epstein Files Transparency Act on Tuesday, November 18th. As of now, the bill is expected to pass the House with bipartisan support, potentially with 100 or more Republicans joining Democrats despite Trump's months of opposition. but its fate in the Senate is uncertain. Majority Leader John Thune has said he doesn't think the Senate needs to pass it. And even if both chambers pass it, Trump would need to sign it into law. So here's my question for you. Do you think Trump's reversal is genuine? Or is this part of a larger strategy to control the narrative while keeping the most damaging files hidden? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you think there are dots I missed, and I know there probably are, share those too. This story is far from over, and something tells me the next few weeks are gonna get very interesting. If this video gave you a new perspective, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, there's more coming. I'll see you in the next one.